G'day, welcome to another episode of Boyd's Blog. It's been a bit of a while since we did the last one. I fell off the roof and put 28 staples in my head, which was a barrel of laughs. There's a Boyd-shaped indentation in the driveway, but I'll tell you a bit more about that later. Today's a bit of an unusual one because we're out here in the shed, as you can see, a bit of DIY. We're going to make one of these things, and what are one of these things, you may ask? Well, it was a bit of an idea I came up with because last weekend I was doing a bit of brick paving, and we're going to go out there now and have a look and see why I came up with this idea here and what the hell that's got anything to do with brick paving. So we'll go outside and have a look, eh? Okay, so we find ourselves out here. This is the paving that I've had done out here, as you can see, and I absolutely hate paving, but I got it as far as this, and as you can see, these vents here are round. These are plumbing vents and inspection ports, so if you've got any drainage blockages or anything like that, you can access your plumbing from out here. And of course, these pipes, as you can see, are round. Well, I don't have a saw, and it just ends up having more cuts than a butcher shop trying to cut around these. So what I've done is just cut some halves and left that aperture open and thought I was going to fill it up with concrete or something like that. And then I found this stuff here, this jarrah that I was talking about earlier inside. I got this from an old job that I did when they dismantled an old veranda. And I have kept some of this wood, denailed it. Fortunately, it just happened to be painted the same colour. And I thought, gee whiz, I could just put that together like that, get the measurements, drop that down over the top like that. And look at that. Not too bad. Even the colour's pretty good. And being jarrah, of course, it's going to handle the weather. I've used only 3 or 4 pieces of wood there. Not particularly happy with this one because of the gaps in between. So today what we're going to do is make another one to fit over this one over here. And we're going to close it off so there are no gaps. So we'll go back inside the shed now and show how we do that. Okay, so here we are back inside. I'm just going to run through in here what you're probably going to need to get this done. If you're a bloke who likes doing a bit of DIY and stuff, you've probably got a few tools. I'm just going to run through these. This is fantastic. Of course, a compound saw, so you can get your angles and everything right. This is a tabletop saw. The reason I think we're going to need a tabletop saw is this wood that I've used, and the goal today is to make a similar one of these but without the gaps. Now the size is a 230mm, and these being 70mm, the numbers don't add up. So I'm going to probably have to cut one of these lengths to suit so we can close those gaps up, and that's the right saw for that, but we'll cover that in a bit later on. Being an outside job, of course, jarrah is a great material to use. You could probably use pine, but of course pine's not as strong. One of the reasons I'm using this is well, it was free, and it is jarrah, and just by coincidence, just lucky enough for it to be painted similar to the pavers. So get yourself the right material for this if you're going to do it. Being an outside job also, you're going to need to use at an absolute minimum galvanised fixings. These are gal. I do have some stainless steel, but I think stainless steel is probably a bit over the top. I've got some other usage for that, so I don't know what these are, 30mm, something like that, 30mm galvanised wood screws, and countersunk heads, which is nice, you don't want to be tripping over the heads. And that's about it really. Tape measure, of course, builder's pencil to mark out the length of what you need. And I've got a steel rule for smaller measurements, and longer measurements we can use the tape measure. So what we'll do now is go back outside, get our measurements, and we're going to actually do a little bit of brick paving just to finish that job off so we can get on to the wood stuff. Back out here by the pavers, see this one here, this is the aperture we're going to do today. And what I've done, of course, is I've left out the pavers around it. Now this is the section we're going to fill in first with the pavers, this little bit here, just to square that off. And of course we need to measure that and cut ourselves a paver. Now I don't have a saw. Fortunately these concrete or cement pavers are quite easy to cut with a hammer and bolster. So there's my bolster, there's my hammer, there's my paver. Get our measurement right. So I've got a straight edge here, get our measurement. Now the beauty of this is you don't need to be perfect. If you're a perfectionist, marry your accountant. But there you go. So that looks to me about 105 mil. So we get our tape measure. Now when you're going to cut a paver or a brick with a hammer and bolster, try and get yourself a sand pad to sit on, because it absorbs a lot of the shock and you end up with it shattering otherwise. So we're going to mark 105 mil here, 105 mil there. These are two 30 mil pavers. They're cement pavers, and they are 230 mil by 150 by 40 mil thick. So good path pavers, not the sort of thing you'd use on a driveway. So here we go, we just gently give that a tap along those marked edges, along the face first, just to start a point, and then do your edges. Be quite firm on the edges, and then just gently work along here again, and just repeat the process until you've got yourself the measurement you want. So we simply put that in over here, beautiful, and now as you can see we've got a nice square we can work with. So let's get that measurement. And that to me looks like about 120 mil, sorry 220 mil, it should be 220 mil this side as well. Yep, 220 will do. So it's 220 by 300. So we'll transfer those measurements back inside and start cutting up some wood. 220 by 300. Right, so back in the shed now, we're going to just cutting up some timber. Just a little thing I do is I kept a bit of this melamine from a job I used before, and I use that to sort of draw out some things and use it as mathematic. You know, I can use a bit of CRC and clean that off. It's almost like a whiteboard really, and just pencil out what I've done or what I'm going to do, get my measurements and everything organised. And in this instance, I've drawn out a template on what this is going to look like. Now, what we've done is I've measured out the size, found the centre point, and then got my bits of material and worked out that on these two ends I'm going to need cut about 20 mil off. And that's where that saw is going to come into play. So I'll show you what I mean by that, and we'll put it all together. Okay, that's the wood cut. So we've got 4 lengths at 300 and 2 to go underneath to hold it all together like we have there. Except 2 of these are going to need to be cut down the guts to make only 40 mil to close up those gaps. And that's going to require that saw, so let's get that one hooked up. Okay, see that? I've set this up so this bench saw is going to slice these babies 40 mil thick. Because I want to close these gaps up, it's about 20 mil each, so there's about 40 mil I've got to get rid of. So what we're going to do is set that up like that. Got my straight edge here clamped up. Got my bench saw here, and I'm just going to simply slide that through and cut that off. You'll notice this saw doesn't have any sort of guard or protective equipment. That's because that's just how I like it. I don't recommend you do this at home. Make sure you use a proper one. But this is like Mythbusters. So there you go. Yeah, just like Mythbusters. Don't try this at home. But you get the gist. This is how we're going to do this. You might even try this with a circular saw, but I can't be bothered getting it out. I just think this is a much more accurate way of doing it. So let's cut these up now. Alright, we're about to kick this machine in the guts. Now this thing makes more noise than a mother-in-law's convention, so you can see I've got the ear protectors on, and I'm going to use a dummy piece of wood here to push this through, because as you get a bit closer, getting your fingers anywhere near this can end up in a bloodbath. So here we go. And there you go. And we'll do that one more time and then we'll bolt it all together. Okay, well that's all the holes pre-drilled. I like to pre-drill with the right size drill bit, of course, for the fixing into Jarrah, because Jarrah is a very hard wood. Now what I'm going to do is do the countersink with a larger drill bit to get these countersink drill bit fixings in, so there's no head exposed to the surface of the timber. And I'll also whack a little bit of Aquadeer into these holes just to help glue the whole thing together as well. there you go. So I don't know how many that is, half a dozen or so fixings, a dozen or so fixings, and
A couple of minutes later.
that's it there. You'll notice I put the two trimmed ones down in the middle there, the big ones on the outside. I don't know if that's any better or not, but there you go. That's how I decided to do it. Now that's the closed off version. Just get rid of some of this excess glue off. And this is the one over here that we did with the gaps. Look, it's entirely up to you which one you like. I prefer the one with the gaps. So let's go and put it out there and see what it looks like. Okay, so here we are. This is the finished product. This is the hole. Just dug out a bit of the gravel that we used to bed the pavers on. You can see what we've had to do here. We've done the measurements. We've cut the wood. I'm going to drop him in there like that. And just give it a stamp like we did with the other one. And there you go. That's it. Fits nice and neat. And if you drive a wheelbarrow or something over that, you're not going to trip over. But more importantly, what you've done is you've covered yourself in glory by not having to cut up a whole heap of those pavers with a brick saw, because I'm telling you it's a nightmare. This thing here, this is the one with the gaps. That one of course just sits in there over there like that. It's up to you which one you prefer. I actually prefer the one that's closed up a bit, really. Just looks a bit neater. And of course, if you ever do need to gain access to that plumbing, you can simply just lift that up, take your lid off, and you can access your pipe if you need to. So there you go, folks. Little household tip, a little bit of DIY project. If you're a bored guy at home, your wife's out spending your money in the shops, and you just feel like drilling a hole and cutting up a bit of wood in the shed, there's just a little tip, something you can do. That's what I did this weekend anyway. Have a great weekend.